My parents stole my college fund. Not because we were poor. Not because someone in our family was sick. They stole it to save my older brother's failing business. Then my father looked me straight in the eyes and said, "You're a girl. You don't need an expensive education." That sentence changed my life forever. I walked out of my childhood home carrying one suitcase, 187 pounds in my bank account, and a broken heart. 6 years later, the same parents who said I would never become anything walked into the headquarters of a £1 million company, begging the CEO for help. They had no idea. The CEO was me. My name is Olivia Brooks. And I grew up in a quiet suburb outside Seattle. From the outside, we looked like the perfect family. Dad owned a successful construction company. Mom worked from home. Our house was beautiful. We had family vacations, Christmas photos, Sunday dinners. Everyone thought we were happy. They were wrong. Inside that house, everything revolved around one person. My older brother, Ethan. He got it. If Ethan failed, someone else was blamed. If Ethan made a mistake, Mom called it a learning experience. But when I made even the smallest mistake, it became proof that I wasn't good enough. I still remember my 15th birthday. Dad gave Ethan the keys to a brand new pickup truck. It wasn't even his birthday. He had simply mentioned he wanted one. 3 days later, there it was. Meanwhile, on my birthday, Mom handed me a small envelope. Inside was a 20-pound gift card. She smiled. "We know you'll understand." Understand what? That I mattered less? I smiled anyway, because disappointing them somehow always felt like my fault. School became my escape. I loved learning. Numbers made sense. Business fascinated me. I spent mine studying. Teachers believed in me. My economics teacher once told me, "Olivia, one day you'll run your own company." I laughed. It sounded impossible. No one in my family had ever believed in me. Why should I believe in myself? Everything changed during my final year of high school. I applied to one of the best business universities in America. Thousands applied. Only a few hundred were accepted. For months, I checked my email every morning. Then, one Friday afternoon, the message finally arrived. "Congratulations." I screamed so loudly the neighbors probably heard me. I had done it. I ran downstairs holding my laptop. "Dad." "Mom." I got in. Dad looked up from his phone. "That's nice." Mom smiled politely. "We're proud of you." That was it. No celebration. No hugs. No excitement. 5 minutes later, Ethan walked into the kitchen. Dad immediately put his phone away. "What is it?" "I want to start a fitness equipment company." Dad's eyes lit up. Now that's a real future. For the next 2 hours, they discussed business plans, investments, warehouses, suppliers. Nobody mentioned my university again. A week later, the university emailed me my tuition details. Luckily, I wasn't worried. My grandmother had created a college fund for me when I was 6 years old. Every birthday, every Christmas, she deposited money into it. Before she passed away, she held my hand and whispered, "No matter what happens, your education is already paid for." I carried those words in my heart for years, so I wasn't worried. Until Dad suddenly asked me one evening. I frowned. "You already know." He looked uncomfortable. "No. I mean, how much exactly?" Something didn't feel right. The next morning, I drove to the bank. The woman behind the desk smiled. "How can I help?" "I'd like to check my education account." She typed my details. Her smile disappeared. "I'm sorry. There seems to be a problem. My stomach tightened. What kind of problem? She looked at me with sympathy. The account was closed. I stared at her. No. That can't be right. She turned the screen toward me. Balance, £0. I couldn't breathe. Where's the money? She quietly replied. It was withdrawn 6 months ago. 6 months. Before I'd even received my university acceptance. I drove home shaking. Dad was washing his truck. I walked straight toward him. What happened to my college fund? He didn't answer. Mom came outside. Her face turned pale. I held up the bank statement. Who took my money? Dad slowly placed the sponge on the bonnet. We did. 3 words. 3 words that destroyed every ounce of trust one had left. What do you mean? We used it. I felt sick. Used it for what? Before Dad could answer, the front door opened. Ethan walked outside smiling. He had absolutely no idea what was happening. Dad looked at him. Then back at me. We invested it. In Ethan's business. Everything went silent. I looked from Dad to Mom. Then to Ethan. Nobody looked ashamed. You stole Grandma's money. Dad frowned. Don't use that word. It was family money. No. I whispered. It was my future. Mom stepped forward. Olivia. Please understand. Ethan's business needed capital. And mine didn't? Dad sighed. You'll figure something out. You're responsible. Ethan needs more support. Those words hurt more than losing the money itself. For the first time. They admitted exactly how little they believed in me. I turned toward Ethan. Did you know? He hesitated. Then nodded. I thought they already told you. I couldn't believe it. You knew they emptied my college fund? He shrugged. They said you'd understand. Understand? How could anyone understand betrayal? That night, I packed 1 suitcase. 20 years of memories. Reduced to a single bag. Mom stood in the doorway. You're overreacting. I zipped my suitcase. No. I've finally stopped pretending. Dad never came upstairs. Ethan laughed from the living room. Good luck paying for university. I carried my suitcase downstairs. Nobody tried to stop me. Nobody hugged me. Nobody said, please don't go. As I reached the front door, I turned around one last time. I hope his business is worth losing your daughter. Dad didn't answer. He simply looked away. I closed the door behind me. I had no idea that it would be 6 years before I saw my family again. For the first few weeks, I cried almost every night. Not because of the money. Because I kept asking myself one question. Why wasn't I enough? Every child wants one thing. To make their parents proud. I spent 18 years trying. Perfect grades. Part-time jobs. Never causing trouble. And somehow, it still wasn't enough. But eventually, the tears stopped. I realized something. If my own family didn't believe in me, I'd become the woman they could never ignore. I rented the smallest room I could find. The wallpaper was peeling. My bed touched one wall. My desk touched the other. Every morning, I woke up at 5 a.m., worked as a waitress until noon, attended online business classes in the afternoon, delivered food at night. Some days, I worked 16 hours. Some nights, I fell asleep wearing my shoes. People called it hard work. To me, it was survival. One rainy evening, while delivering coffee to a marketing agency, I overheard 2 business owners arguing. Our social media is terrible. We're losing customers every month. Something clicked in my mind. Every small business around me had the same problem. They didn't understand online marketing. That night, instead of sleeping, I created a simple business plan. I called it Bright Horizon Media. At the time, it was just me. A second-hand laptop. A tiny desk. And a dream. Finding my first client wasn't easy. I emailed over 200 businesses. 198 ignored me. One replied, "We're not interested." Only one cafe owner agreed to meet me. His name was Mr. Harris. He smiled kindly. "You're young. Why should I trust you?" I looked him in the eye. "Because I'll work harder than anyone you've ever hired." He gave me one chance. Within 3 months, his sales increased by almost 40%. Then something amazing happened. He told another business owner. Then another. Then another. Word spread faster than I ever imagined. Within 2 years, I hired my first employee. Then 5. Then 20. By the 5th year, Bright Horizon Media had clients across the country. Magazines interviewed me. Business podcasts invited me. People started calling me the self-made CEO. Every interview ended with the same question. Who inspired you? I always smiled. My grandmother. I never mentioned my parents. Not because I hated them. Because they no longer mattered. 6 years after leaving home, our company moved into a beautiful glass office building in downtown Seattle. The lobby displayed one sentence in giant silver letters. "No one decides your worth except you." Those words reminded me every day why I'd started. One Monday morning, my assistant knocked on my office door. "You have 3 visitors." "I don't have any meetings." They said they're family. My heart skipped a beat. I looked through the glass wall. Standing in reception were my parents and Ethan. For 6 years. Not a single birthday message. Not one Christmas card. Nothing. Now, they were here. I walked into reception. Nobody spoke. Mom finally whispered, "Olivia, you look beautiful." I simply nodded. Dad looked around my office in disbelief. "You own all this?" "Yes." Ethan couldn't stop staring at the company logo. His expensive watch was gone. His designer clothes had disappeared. He looked exhausted. I led them into the conference room. Dad placed a folder on the table. His hands were shaking. Ethan's company failed. I wasn't surprised. "The investors are suing." Mom quietly added, "We mortgaged our home to save the business." I opened the folder. My stomach tightened. Nearly £900,000 in debt. Bank notices. Legal letters. Foreclosure papers. Everything was falling apart. Dad looked at me. "We need your help." There it was. The real reason they had come. Not because they missed me. Not because they regretted what they'd done. Because they needed money. "How much?" Dad swallowed hard. "If you could lend us £900,000. The room became silent. I slowly closed the folder. 6 years earlier, they had stolen my future. Today, they wanted me to save theirs. I looked directly at my father. "Do you remember what you told me?" He frowned. "When you stole my college fund." He looked away. "You said, 'You're responsible. You'll figure something out.'" I smiled sadly. "You were right. I did." Mom burst into tears. "We made a terrible mistake." "You didn't make one mistake," I replied calmly. "You made hundreds. You chose Ethan every single time." Ethan finally spoke. I was jealous. I looked at him. "What?" "I hated how hard you worked. I thought everything came easily to you. I believed Mom and Dad when they said I deserved more." His voice broke. I was wrong. For the first time in my life, I saw genuine regret in his eyes. Not excuses. Not arrogance. Regret. Dad suddenly stood up. "I know we don't deserve anything. But please, Don't let us lose the house. I took a deep breath. Then I stood. I won't pay your debts. Their faces fell instantly. Mom started crying even harder. Dad closed his eyes. Ethan lowered his head. Then I continued. But I won't let you become homeless either. They looked up. I own several rental properties. You can stay in one. Rent-free. As long as you rebuild your lives honestly. Dad stared at me. Why would you help us? I smiled softly. Because Grandma raised me. Not you. Nobody spoke. Mom covered her face and cried. Even Ethan wiped away tears. Before leaving, I handed Ethan a business card. He looked confused. What's this? A job interview. My company needs warehouse managers. He looked embarrassed. You'd hire me? I'll give you an interview. Nothing more. You'll earn the position. No shortcuts. No family privileges. For the first time. He smiled. I understand. Over the next year, everything changed. Dad found work supervising construction projects. Mom became an administrator at a local charity. Ethan started in our warehouse. He arrived early. Worked late. Never complained. One promotion. Then another. He finally learned something our parents had never taught him. Success isn't given. It's earned. One Sunday afternoon, Mom invited me to dinner. As we finished dessert, Dad stood up holding a small envelope. I've wanted to give you this for years. Inside was a check for £10,000. It isn't much. It's the first payment for the money we stole. I looked at him. You don't have to. He shook his head. Yes, I do. It will never erase what we did, but it's where we start. Today, people still ask me, what was the secret to building a £1 million business? I always give the same answer. It wasn't talent. It wasn't luck. It was pain. Because pain can destroy you, or it can introduce you to the strongest version of yourself. My parents thought they stole my future, but all they really stole was the life they imagined I'd live. Instead, I built one far greater than they ever believed possible. And that's the funny thing about being underestimated. Sometimes, it's the greatest advantage you'll ever have.